Hey, this is Jonathan Fields, host of the Good Life Project podcast. Boost Mobile reminds me of what I love, when someone reimagines what's possible. They have invested billions in building America's newest 5G network, becoming the country's fourth major carrier. They are doing things differently, offering a $25 monthly unlimited plan that never increases in price and letting you try their service risk-free for 30 days. With blazing fast 5G and plans for all the latest devices, they're changing the game. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com. The Boost Mobile network, together with their roaming partners, covers 99% of the U.S. population. 5G speeds not available in all areas.
When you think of hot, you might think about the tragic time you ate too much wasabi. Or about getting into your car on a summer day when it feels more like stepping into a sauna. But heat can work in your favor, like during Verizon Red Hot Deal Days. Get hundreds of hot deals on all your favorites, like iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence, Apple Watch Series 10, and iPad, on any plan. Only until May 28th for new and existing customers. Offer available on My Plan. Only at Verizon.
You were made for going the extra mile for your pet, and Farrah Pets was made to do the same. Farrah Pets supplements are vet-created with innovative ingredients that combine Eastern and Western therapies so your pet can thrive. After all, you would do anything to help your pet feel their best, and so would we. Visit farrahpets.com/pod to get 20% off today. That's FERA pets.com/POD. Farrah Pets. We were made for this. If you're a parent or share a fridge with someone, Instacart is about to make grocery shopping so much easier. Because with family carts, you can share a cart with your partner and each add the items you want. Since between the two of you, odds are you'll both remember everything you need. And this way, you'll never have to eat milkless cereal again. So minimize the stress of the weekly shop with family carts. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply for 3 orders in 14 days. Excludes restaurants.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh, hey, friends. This sale's for you. The DSW Friends and Family event is on. DSW VIP members get 25% off almost everything in stores and online for a limited time. Don't miss out. This only happens twice a year. Not a VIP? You're still family to us. Join for free to get in on the savings. Plus, VIPs always get free shipping on anything. Save on must-own shoes today when you shop the DSW Friends and Family event at your DSW store or DSW.com.
Welcome back to Malevolent Season 5 Q&A, Part 2. If you haven't heard Part 1, or if you aren't caught up fully with Season 5 and Dapo, turn back now and go listen to those. Otherwise, continue on and hear even more secrets and revelations from this Part 2 of Malevolent Season 5 Q&A. When did you know that the Blackstone was an Antoine?
This is going to be a surprising one, but forever I knew. So a lot of my, yes, and I will say this proudly, because a lot of my ideas, as you know, come up kind of later where I'm like, that's cool. I will tell you, from the moment I thought of Blackstone, the campaign, like that I was going to run, I knew that I was going to put the Blackstone in the body of one of the travelers, with tattoos all under his chest. The funniest part was I didn't know it was going to be Antoine. I didn't pick that it was going to be, because it wasn't until we got to the carriage that I chose Antoine to be one of those characters. And I remember pitching it to Jo, and she's like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. But I always knew there was going to be like this sort of peasant boy helper that was the true carrier of the Blackstone. That was one of my longest no's. Because I just thought it was so cool, right?
I mean, yeah, it slaps so hard.
I was, and to be honest, gun to my head, I don't think I nailed the reveal that it was inside of him the way I wished it could, but I never really had a better idea. But I know there could have been a moment like the butcher, the butcher switching sides, that could have been like and I didn't get it, but I've had that idea for so long. In fact, again, the Call of Cthulhu campaign that I had originally written was murder mystery, that they survive, that they are tasked with traveling the Blackstone, that the Blackstone is inside one of the characters. And I originally had the character be tattooed, but he was a leper, and he was wrapped in all of these like almost mummy bandages. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that made it extra like repulsive to the people who wouldn't go inside of his stomach. But when I realized it was Antoine, I was like, well, I can't make him a leper anymore because it doesn't make sense. And also, but the bell, and I mentioned it in one of my other things, the bells in the darkness. That's how lepers used to announce they were coming. They would ring bells to like be like, hey, a leper is approaching. And I thought, what a cool moment that I could do, but I never did it. Season 6, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Oh my God. Okay, so when you were writing the castle, and you knew where the Blackstone was.
100%. Yep. I knew all of that, which was so fun.
That's so fun.
It was literally like on the road with Surveil and Antoine as they were like approaching the castle. It was just like inside of Antoine, because it's been inside of him for like a while. It wasn't like just sewn in. It's like
yeah. Tattoos take a long time,
and they take time.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
Season 5 is incredible because the re-listen, things that are put together.
Yeah.
You re-listen to Season 5 or.
Yeah, there's a lot of big picture stuff because Season 5 was all kind of meant to be one big cool campaign, you know.
Mm-hmm. Or Everard knowing that Castle Carringford is going to fall. Once you know that afterwards, and then going back and listening to everything he says in the castle and the suspects becomes so. And when he's saying goodbye to Arthur, everything becomes so much more meaningful.
Yeah. He's like,
good job.
And he even says, everyone says multiple times, like, trust Antoine. I think Everard literally says, like, I think he says something like, it's all, he doesn't say it as big as it's all on his shoulders, but he's literally like, you know, he's my most trusted or something. I can't remember. Because I wanted it to be subtle, but not obvious, right? Because, like, I didn't want anyone to think Antoine was special. I wanted Antoine to feel like, and I do think I succeeded at that. It feels like, at the end, when Antoine is the last survivor, it feels like he was lucky, not like he is meant to be the last one. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yes. Well, everyone is so distracted by him being capital A Antoine.
Yes.
That you were able to sleight of hand that, hey, look over here.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. It was very cool. And man, I had so many. Yeah. Is Part 50 called The Carriage? Or is that what I was going to call it? Because I have it written here.
Part 50 is the company.
Okay, so it was originally called The Carriage, but I'm glad I changed it. But yeah, Part 50 had a lot of, I knew there's a lot of meat in there about how I wanted to play it all out. And I'm glad I figured out how 51 was going to work because it changed how 50 was going to work. But ultimately, I had Lilith being more duplicitous. I had this idea, talking about people are going to eat me for fridging another woman, but I had this idea before I really knew what Alia was going to do or be, that one of the revelations was that Lilith was one of the party. And Arthur would find this by Alia being very closed about like a chest. And eventually Arthur would like get the key from her and open the chest. And in there would be the body of Alia. so that you realize, oh my God, the person that I just took the key from was actually someone else. But obviously the fridging thing, because, well, I didn't want to do it with Vale because I think Vale would be too boisterous. Like he'd be like, oh, and Lilith to be that would be weird. And I knew Antoine had the stone. So I really only had Alia to do it with. I was like, well, shit, like this is, and how perfect would it be for Lilith to hide under the guise of someone who couldn't speak anyway, right? Like it's the perfect front. But I'm so glad once and honestly, I was going to go with that until I realized, oh, wait, no, there's a better out with 51 with the flashback kind of thing. But that was going to be one of the big reveals originally.
That's so fascinating. I want to tell the listener that we're going to skip over talking about the castle and the suspects because we talked about it a lot in the InvictusCon Q&A. So if you want to hear Harlan's thoughts on that, go watch that because we have yet to get to 52 and Dapo. So
or wait to the commentaries.
Or wait till the commentary. Yeah,
yes,
become
51,
a patron
52
and
and Dapo. Those are big. Those are big.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
so they're almost bigger than 40, and 40 is like an hour and 40 minutes.
I would say it's definitely bigger than 40. I mean, 40, what 40 has going for it is the best action scene.
Yeah, 40 is action. 52 is like musical, I guess.
The culmination. It is a symphony.
It is. Which is funny. I originally fucked up and had John say symphony, but we'll get to that when we get to 52. Okay, 51. Any questions on 51?
Well, I mean, yes. So you also storyboarded 51.
Yes.
What did that look like?
Well, because I needed the biggest problem with 51 is that the conversation we're hearing throughout it is the newest, which means Arthur, like chronologically, it's the most recent, which means any information revealed in the flashbacks, Arthur would know about. So I had to be really careful with what he was asking Lilith that he already knew that the audience did or didn't, right? Like, so for example, Antoine says Azathoth is in a cage and the Blackstone is the key to that cage. And Lilith knows that it's not a cage. But if Arthur says, who is Azathoth? And then in the last chapter, in a flashback, we hear Antoine say who Azathoth is, well, then it doesn't make sense for the A plot because then Arthur would have already heard that. So that was really tricky to kind of keep my timelines consistent when I'm writing in pieces. If I was to write this all in one, no problem. I can scroll back. The biggest problem with Malevolent is you publish an episode on the first of the month, and by the time you're writing the end of the month, if you hadn't considered what he would have learned in that episode, you're like, oh, fuck, I messed that up. So that was really, really tricky because, yeah, it was just tricky. And I knew that the overarching plot of 51 was going to be about hope in a hopeless world. The idea of, staying strong even when all around you. And I often thought about If by Rudyard Kipling, which is a poem that I don't think has appeared in the show, but will. And one of the lines in it says, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. That little couplet was a big theme of 51. And he does actually say one or two lines from it in 51 as a bit of a Easter egg type nod. He just says, I think he says something like, accept the will which says to hold on. So he's quoting it to himself. And basically, what that says in layman's terms for people who are confused by the rhyming or whatever is just like, if you can basically stay where you are, if you can hold on when there is nothing in you except the will to say, hold on. If you can do it when there is no rhyme or reason or people standing behind you, and all that is keeping that fire lit is the literal line to yourself, hold on, then you can accomplish anything. I mean, the end line is then you've been a man, my son, but obviously it should be gender neutral. Then you are human or whatever, that's kind of my takeaway. So that was really the thesis of it. Can you hold on when everyone around you has lost the will, or when everything around you is dead and gone? And Alia is trying to install that to Arthur throughout this journey because Alia knows from the onset that they are doomed. Antoine knows from the onset that they're doomed. Only Surveil is kind of a little bit like Arthur in that he's kind of like, you understanding what's going on. And man, that helmet for Surveil saved me so much because I was so worried that he was just going to sound like every other Scottish character. But man, I got to put more people in helmets. You know?
Balaclavas,
For
masks,
real.
like.
Well, I was just so thankful that we could be in medieval ages. I was like, fuck,
Yeah,
I need
you
more
gotta
gas
find
mask calendars.
yeah, things to cover faces with.
Exactly.
Alia has such an interesting role here
Mm.
in that she seems to already know that the day of wrath is not gonna go their way, and she's already looking beyond that. Is
Mm.
that's
Or does
that's the,
she? See,
that,
the way I view it is that Alia knew exactly how this was going to go down. Right down to Lilith's temptation, right down to Cain's taking of the stone.
mm-hmm.
And Lilith's verbiage is talking about not trusting her to a degree, but she doesn't speak to which her she's speaking to. We find out through Lilith's present day and flashbacks that their party was attacked, that their party was wheels broken, that we've done all this.
Good poisoned, yeah.
But there's no proof that it was Lilith that did it.
No, Lilith says it was Mother Darkness.
Exactly. And Mother Darkness is very pissed off at Lilith, and Mother Darkness has every reason to want all of this to fail because she doesn't want to give Lilith anything she wants. So
and she
to
hates
me,
Arthur.
There's a lot of like obfuscated verbiage in the way Alia speaks, but my personal view is that what happened down to the letter is what Alia foresaw as the day of wrath. But the story's not over yet. And Alia sees beyond what we've only been able to see so far. And she knows that there is more.
That's what I was saying.
So
everything she was saying to me was like,
bigger.
She is seen bigger. What is going to happen in 52? And yes, it is going to seem like it's the end, but there's beyond that. You must continue hope for what the manager says
exactly
later.
It's all the big picture. But yeah, so she sees beyond in a way.
Talk more about Lilith and Lilith's plan and Lilith's motivations.
So we don't get to see fully Lilith's motivations yet.
No.
I mean, at all. Who knows?
At all. Ever. Who knows?
But I will say this. Yes, it's very clear. There's a theme with Malevolent. And
there is?
I think you can extrapolate the parallels between a father who accidentally kills his daughter and, in a separate instance, a daughter who would want revenge on her father. And I'll sort of leave it at that, but there's narrative parallels between those two antagonists. A lot of people are like, oh, Arthur is Cain and Cain is Arthur at the beginning. It's like, well, no, not that literal. Yeah. But there's like themes that are being echoed throughout the two versions of the antagonist and the protagonist. And I sort of teased the idea that Lilith was, I think when Lilith showed up, I was kind of like, oh, maybe you've met the real malevolent entity. But I think I can now show you with 52 being like, no. See, it was Cain all along, which was really fun because I really enjoy people being like, oh yeah, I love Cain. He's my Blorbo or whatever. And that's totally fine. And he's charming in his own way. But I really lavished finally getting to show how evil he can be. To a degree, I wish he went darker, but there's still time. And I'm really happy. Like, I loved seeing the reaction when Cain was like belittling his daughter, because finally all of the people who were like, I love Cain, kind of saw that no, he's not just evil, he's like a piece of shit too.
He's a piece of shit.
Oh, I was waiting for the reaction for when Cain killed Lilith, because I was like, get it now? So many people were like, wait, no, Cain, but you're not
the
eating
cardinal
snacks.
sin of Malevolent.
Yeah, like, I was like, get it? He's really bad. Like, that's the point. Anyway, it was really fun, but that's 52. Lilith has been really entertaining. I loved building her crescendo of her entrance
Yes.
I remember really loving and being really excited for that moment where they're just sitting by the fire and it's dying and the dialogue's really tight and it's like, the fire's dying and Arthur's like, it's not here for comfort, and the quote by Shakespeare,
Yes.
and her flying in and walking out, and I all that was so cool, and I really like her as a villain.
Lilith as a villain was absolutely fascinating, and as a mysterious figure in Arthur's life even more so.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can't talk too much about it. Suffice to say, that story's not over yet by any means.
The thing about Lilith is that there's so many outstanding questions about her, about Arthur's entire backstory. I just don't know how you're going to fit it all into season 6.
Well, look, I've said this before, but Malevolent is only the latest in a long line of stories that I've told. As we talked about Call of Cthulhu Game 1, The Witch's Mark, Call of Cthulhu Game 2. And I have found my home in terms of medium. I love the ability to tell stories in an audio drama format. And with all of the people who have fallen in love with this world and some of these characters, all I can say at this point is there's still a lot more to tell.
Interesting. Does that mean more stories?
That means whatever it can mean for now. But let's just say when one thing ends, another begins, and so on and so forth, forever and forever.
When Harlan closes a window, he opens a door.
And smashes through the window again. Yes, no, but breathe easy, friends. It'll all be good. But Lilith has been a real slow burn, obviously. Here's a creature who we're met through the veil of another creature to hide her true persona from even herself. I wanted to establish a character that the audience recognized and trusted to a degree without revealing my grand plan or storyline. If she had been introduced as Lilith in season 4, it would have been far too likely that I would rush the ending because I would want to see that happen. So it had to be a slow drip. And I think when I came up with the idea for Scratch being a fracture of her, it gave me a lot more room to play around with entertaining her being this beautiful nightmare creature, because Lilith is a demon of dreams. She, like, canonically in Lovecraft's whatever, she comes into men and seduces them and has babies with them and some stupid shit like that. In my version of Lovecraft, she is like a dream nightmare demon, daughter of Nyarlathotep, and sort of performs the way Nyarlathotep does, but in more of the dream world. And to kind of extrapolate that and then skew it, make it a forgotten one where she forgets herself and she's nothing but a scratch, and this kind of reflection of what she once was, allowed me total freedom to kind of create a new character in a way that gets revealed at the end of The Farm and piggybacks on Arthur all the way till season 5. And as her power grows, we get to sort of see her influence subtly at first and then more overt in ways that we can't truly understand just yet, and will by the end of the show. But
do you have the monster manual entry for fully for Scratch and for Lilith?
No, I write monsters the same way I write a D&D character. The best kind of character to write, in my opinion, is one that has a shell but is essentially hollow within, that you get to fill as you write your story. Because to me, that makes a more true to life character. I love, and I've played characters like this for years, that don't really have a background until you're there. The idea of, I'm a cleric from Waterdeep, and you're walking up and you meet a party member and say, I lost my child when I was young. And this person, you now get to invent, grew up in an orphanage and I never knew my parents. Like, that idea of playing off of a world is so imperative to good storytelling, in my view, that if I were to have a fully fleshed out 100% defined character, then I don't think we have as much room to grow and have fun with, you know?
I think that's absolutely fantastic writing advice for people who get so bogged down in the world building and the character building, and they think that they need to write out everything and know everything before they can write the story, when in actuality, that's not how life works. And
no, I totally agree. The only time I ever recommend the opposite is when you're writing a murder mystery. A murder mystery should be
correct,
filled, and you just get to choose which parts to reveal when. With a character, I think it's the total opposite. I much prefer, I mean, obviously a shell, meaning you do have a frame of who that character is, but
of course,
you define them based on, you know, what the story needs at times.
You know, like one value they'd never break, one childhood thing. Like you have a couple of tent poles, and then everything.
Take Daniel as a character from Malevolent. You know, we know enough about him from context clues who he is. But once I started writing him, in my opinion, he ended up being a lot more compassionate and 3D than I even envisioned. Had I sat down and been like, Daniel would never do this, would never do this, and never this, not only would that character be much more dull, frankly, but we wouldn't have had any of that cathartic revelation of the character the way that the moment called for, you know? Like, he probably, frankly, just would have died had I not had more room to play with.
If you have the sheet in front of you that says, Daniel was born here and here, and then all of a sudden the scene is, oh, I should tell the audience all of these things.
And no one gives a shit. Well, some people do give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about that. Frankly, to me, that stuff is always the stuff that I tune out for.
Yes, and then we wouldn't have gotten the catharsis. So speaking of that, you've introduced now with Lilith so many questions, outstanding questions. We've gotten the Scratch part of her, and even the owl persona of her is a part of her personality. It says a lot about her. That she chooses that way to push them towards the Blackstone.
Yeah.
It's like very manipulative and behind the scenes versus Kane busting down the door in 20 and being like a lot more aggressive and active.
That's it. I mean, her character, even though she doesn't know who she is, so much of her character is defined in the nightmare, you know, where she's watching and manipulating and getting what she wants out of
being
Arthur.
Others.
Yeah.
Yes. Would you say Lilith's a good liar?
Absolutely. I think Lilith is probably the most clever character on the show. The way, I mean, the end of 51 where she tricks, or the start of 52, I should say, where she tricks Arthur.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah. Yes. Let's talk about that. You use a dream sequence again briefly, which I was so excited about.
Yeah, but you know what? That was probably the hardest episode I've had to write in a long time.
Speak on that.
Because, and I didn't realize this until you do it, but once you do that, a dream sequence, you can't really do it again. So when I did the first nightmare, you wake up and Arthur's waking in bed and he's like, oh, what's going on? And the voice jumps in and it's Kellen. It's not John. And you're like, something's off here. And it's beautiful. Then they walk downstairs and the scene changes. And the meat of that episode is the audience slowly realizing, along with Arthur, that something is amiss, and what's amiss is he is currently in a dream. That is the revelation of the episode. The second wave comes in. Who is manipulating my dream? Why are they manipulating my dream? And what do they want from me? All of that is moot by the time of the second nightmare. And I realized that literally the minute I sat down to write it, because I said to Joe, I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I was like, at the end of 51, Arthur will enter in a dream, and then I'll get to do the nightmare part 2. And we were both like, awesome. And then I sat down to write it. And I was like, wait a minute, I can't do this. The minute you hear another voice, you know it's not real. Like you already know the gig is up. So what's the nightmare anymore? So I struggled so much with what the fuck to do. And I remember I had like one scene, which was inside the wooden train that William gives Arthur that burns. I was like, that would be neat. But I was like, but I've also already done a train. So that's when I did the false opening. And I was like, okay. And I had so many pivots on this. I was like, okay, what if episode 51 or 52, sorry, starts off from Antoine's perspective, watching Arthur struggle with the dream. And like, he stands up and he like walks towards the carriage or something, you know, cause I wanted everyone to think that they were going to open the case in the carriage no matter what. Yes. I was like, that could be good. And I was like, okay, well, what if episode is just from John's perspective and Arthur's in the dream? What if John is in the dream? I mean, I went through all these variations. And what ended up working was the opening where you suspect it's a dream and you're on to Arthur, probably even before Arthur is, but pretty quickly he's like, hold on, this was the last thing that happened. Let's take this step at a time. That was the most successful. Then the next scene I had like written, which, you know, goes, I can't remember where they go next, and then it goes to the train and then it goes whatever. It got less and less in time. And the problem was I didn't know how to end it. And it wasn't until I realized, okay, what if the ending is no longer in the dream, but she's still manipulating them in the fact that she can just pretend to be having the stone. I thought, oh, that's perfect, because now you're twisting the dream idea and you're exploiting that aspect. And then it kind of came together much, much quicker. But yeah, and this is a big revelation for me. Yeah, you can't do an idea like that more than once. To a degree, I'm really glad I did it so successfully in the original Nightmare, because yeah, all of the curtain has been pulled back the second time you try to do it. But man, I think that moment was so cool. The way they open the thing and they go and the stone's not in there and like what's going on, and then she melts and she's like, well, she thinks she's got it, I should say, you know, and then and then the triple turn where you realize it's not even fucking there and he's laughing.
Yes.
He's like, it's probably at Carringford. And then the reveal that fucking Antoine's like, Carringford's gone. It's like, what? It's like, yeah, it's done, dude.
Was wild. Yes, the back-to-back revelations of the stone's not in the chest, Castle Carringford is gone and Everett's dead, and then Antoine dying is not even a revelation. Just like, I was still reeling from the shock of that, and then you tell me that the stone is, and then York jumps out. As the realization is happening, you're also getting the realization that the if John says it, Kane's showing up, and that's why York is here again. It was
that pacing too. I went back and forth with that too. I was like, should they pull the stone out? Should they, like, what would Antoine do? And the talisman choice came up, because that was also like, oh man, I was like, I can't. And I was like, this is the perfect moment for the talisman. And I mean, people now should realize using the talisman would have been the worst call possible, because yeah, Kane would have just made him dig it out of it. Antoine would have just been silent all that time. And then Kane, it would have been screaming Antoine while like gutting him open. It would have been horrible. But then, yeah. And then he's like, no, master. And then they say it and they kind of just blow through it too. He's like, don't worry, we're not going to get the stone out of his belly or whatever. And then he's like, oh, it's too late. And then the piano. Is he playing the wager then? Yeah, and he starts off playing the wager really quietly, just on piano.
Yeah.
And it's cool because all of 52, even in the dream sequence, you can hear the wager. I started sprinkling it because I'd written it well enough in advance that I knew, and I wrote a different version of it, that I wanted to start sprinkling the theme in so that when it hit, it felt like an old friend, which is like the most fun way music can hit, right?
Yes.
But yeah, he's playing the piano, and then I was really struggling with how to introduce Kane again, because do you go big? Do you go quiet? Do you go sort of macabre? And I thought the rain stopping was really kind of nice. And like, I wanted the soft intro of Kane because I knew it was going to get so big with the wager.
Yes, absolutely. We're here at the finale, finally.
Yes.
Finale. The finale. Oh boy. I just okay. Okay. What were you most proud of in part 52?
I mean, the wager, the music at the end.
Besides the music.
There's that twist. There's Kane bringing Antoine back. Oh, the reveal that Lilith killed Arthur's parents.
His parents.
I really liked that. That
how long
was
have
a
you been
long
holding
time
on to
coming.
that? Yeah, how long have you been holding?
Yeah, that one is a long time. I'll put it this way. I knew why Scratch called Arthur my favorite from the first moment Scratch called Arthur my favorite. So that's as long as that could be, which funnily enough, in the show is like 10 episodes, but in life it's like 2 years. So
yeah.
It's like, two different modes of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew, I'll say this much, and I don't think this reveals too much. No, I knew that Lilith, when Arthur was about 8 years old, leaned over his bed on one particular night and whispered into his ear that he was her favorite. And that moment, I don't think hits as hard as it will eventually. I mean, there's not to say there's like any huge things, but I think upon re-listens, or maybe just once we know where all this ends, it'll feel really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's like the reveal of John in the Dark World and then re-listening to season 3.
Yeah, exactly. Which has been really fun too. But yeah, I would say that at that moment I was really proud of, besides the wager, obviously, just because I think I debated on how to reveal it and when to reveal it. It was, truth be told, since the dawn, it was I actually shouldn't say that. But truth be told, yeah, I'm glad I did it. No.
Well, you have to get some of these reveals out.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, I'll say this. I mean, you can choose whether we cut it or not, but truth be told, that was always going to be a season 6 reveal. But that does implicate some things that I don't know if I want. I mean, most people are intelligent.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how obfuscated. Yeah, we'll just say that. You leave it in. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll see if yeah.
But yes,
I mean, she dropped
really
a part of herself and then they absorbed it. I mean,
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, when we talked about Intermezzo last Q&A, you had spent a long time making sure that Kane's voice was correct. You had a lot of exposition.
Yes, and I repeated the theories multiple times to make sure it was clear.
Mm-hmm. Did you have that same struggle with Kane this time?
No, because his concept is so much simpler.
Yes.
He's like, with everything he says, he's like, because this was what's all been leading up to in a way. Like, he was just like, look, I want to kill Azathoth, and when I do, I'm betting that I will get to be the most powerful being in existence. Which is funny because it seems like a bad wager, but realistically, these are alien forces that we don't like. Just the concept of Azathoth dreaming our reality should be so foreign to anyone's mind that what the fuck do you know about Kane? Like, maybe. I saw a lot of people being like, that's a stupid wager, and obviously Arthur and John think it, but as a writer trying to play in the cosmos, yeah, I buy it. Like, this guy, yeah.
It was so amazing. I think I told you, and I've been talking with others about how perfectly alien you made him sound, and how difficult it is when approaching Lovecraftian horror, cosmic horror, to
his depiction of like perfection. I love that. Yes. It's just like this wall of like never ending flesh across time and like
and
just sinew and pleasure and like, yeah. And he's like crying about it. I was trying.
Unending joy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh.
But that's what he would want, right? Like he doesn't need anything. He just wants to feel all the time, feel things, you know, like take it to the brink. I love that. And so I always knew that Kane's goal was to kill Azathoth, because I always thought, what a metal escalation, right? You got people who are like, oh, he's totally going to want to wake Azathoth. Oh my God, he's going to want to wake Azathoth. That's crazy. It's like, no. I don't want to wake him. I want to fucking kill him. And that like line is what started the wager, because I was like, boom, like that's a fucking mic drop of like, fuck you. You think we're playing like kids games? No. I'm going nuclear on this shit.
Oh, talk about using the wager, the music to portion out the stuff. Because you mentioned that to me as that's how you approach writing, which I thought was such a cool way to write this episode.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say, this is the time to get into this. So let's do this.
Yes, let's do this.
I sat down at the piano, I can't remember, a month ago now, maybe. Joe was making dinner and the kids were hanging around. I started playing those notes. Do, 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 do. And I just thought, that sounds nice and ominous. And I had always envisioned the big sort of revelation of what Kane wants to do with a song by Aram Khachaturian called Adagio from Spartacus. And it's the opening song that's used in the film. Oh my God. It's the Coen Brothers film, Hudsucker Proxy. And it's beautiful and it's sad and sweet. And it's got a lot of like Gershwin vibes to it. And I always really, really liked it. So much so that when I was listening to it on repeat, I was sort of like envisioning Kane talking about the beauty of his world. So it's much more positive piece than what the wager ended up being. And I sort of floated the idea very jokingly to Joe, being like, man, maybe I'll license it. Maybe I'll just use it without checking. And she was like, yeah, maybe. And the more I thought about it, obviously, I was like, well, that's a stupid idea, because number one, I would never get the rights. And number two, if I did it, they'd probably pull it and then it would be silent. So I was sitting at the piano and playing, and I was kind of like, well, maybe I could just do it myself. And it was daunting to think even that way. But I was like, well, whatever. What the fuck? So I started playing this little piece and I played it, different versions of it, just kind of took, 10, 15 minutes nonstop. That's it. It wasn't hours. And I was like, that's kind of cool. And Joe was like, yeah, it sounds nice. And I ran out and I bought a converter, because my piano downstairs that I play songs on doesn't record the way my keyboard up here does, but it's weighted, so it's much nicer to play on. So I tried to plug it in and I had recorded it on the actual piano. I spent days trying to like export the MIDI that I had played to my PC, and it just wasn't working. So I was like, fuck it. But I did figure out how to record live from that. So I just redid it. I just played it again. And the actual MIDI that I played was only like 15 minutes. It was like 15 minutes of piano, just piano. And I sent it up to my computer and I sat down at like 10 a.m. and I had this song and I kind of cut out, mistakes, and I pieced it together. And basically I had this 9-minute piano piece called The Wager. And I was like, that's cool. I was like, all right, let me try like fleshing this thing out. So I spent literally the day making the instruments, but all from the same piano piece. So all the inputs were just piano. Some of them I kind of like made up. Some of them I stretched, flipped, whatever. Took out the low notes, made those basses, took out the high notes, made those flutes, whatever. And at the end of it, I had that piece. And I was like, this is awesome. Now, when I was recording it, obviously, I was like kind of thinking in my head, oh, okay, I want it to be angry at times because, Kane's going to be angry, but I also want to give like heart to it. I want to give moments. But beyond that, beyond just feeling the vibes, I didn't structure it in any way beyond just like, this feels good. Then I had the piece and I sent it to some friends. I sent it to you and I sent it to some other people, and they were like, this sounds really fucking cool. And it felt good. And I was saying this to Joe in the shower after the season 5 finale. She was kind of like, do you feel like good? And I was like, I do finally, but like, I don't allow myself to celebrate too early. Like I finished this piece, and I was like, I like it. It's good, but I'm not going to celebrate yet. I'm not going to be like, I succeeded yet. Then when I was recording it, I pulled the piece up and I was like, what does this sound like? I was like, well, the beginning, I know. I want it to be that line from Cain. I'm going to kill him. Boom, 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 boom. And then I want the sort of back and forth of the three opening pieces where it's kind of loud, soft, and then loud. I want that to be the soft part, to be the debate from John and Arthur. Then it gets real soft. And literally I just kind of went through the piece and just picked out where it was. And then I wrote. I was like, that's about enough words. And then I would play the piece and kind of read them to myself on the computer. Just be like, no, you can't do this, because I can do all the voices. You don't have to worry about timing. Cut out a few lines that I knew would be too long. Went in the booth, burned through it all, sat down on my computer, and I would say the only things that got cut were there's a bit at the end of when John is talking about the dark world that I had a few more lines from John where he talked a little bit more. I had to cut those just for timing, but other than that, it worked seamlessly. And by the end of it, I showed it to Jo, and her like jaw dropped, and I was like, I'm not going to celebrate yet. I'll just wait, see how the audience feels. And even now, I'm still like, I'll wait till the public release comes out, then I'll feel good about it. But I am very proud of it, because I never in a million years thought that I could do something that had like an orchestral flair to it, let alone a piece that feels like a symphony. And I'm very, very proud of it. And I think it's really cool lined up with Cain's little speech. I think it's got this theatricality to it that is almost funny in a way. Like the way that John and Arthur are like talking when the flutes and like the strings are pulling, and he's like, you don't understand, there's more. And then it switches, and then John talks. It's like, it feels like you're watching like a musical. And I think that's really funny in like 5 different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The symbol when they keep interrupting.
Oh, the beginning. So that I added like live, right? Like when I was editing it, I was like, that's so funny. I really wanted this. And then, you hear it fall over like, because like they're stopping and like, what are you doing? And that was the other thing. So it wasn't until I started editing the episode that I was like, oh, I want the orchestra to be diegetic. I want it to be there, because that makes it so much cooler. Originally, I was just thinking it would just be a song, but then I was like, no. Cain makes the orchestra appear. And then the addition that they're all Arthurs was just like kind of a bonus.
That he's taken from the other.
Well, so before I ever thought about an orchestra, when I thought about the season 5 finale, it was going to be. But yeah, the wager was really good. And the way it hits, I am a fan of wagers after all. I loved the idea that the build up to that moment is just like kind of, it's not a huge line of importance, but to him it is. Yes. I really liked it.
We got a lot of Cain's point of view in this that I really, really enjoyed. In the other things, we've gotten hints and winks, and yes, he has told us things, but this finally truly felt like Cain is putting his cards on the table.
Yes, 100%. That was always kind of intended to be the moment that we find out, because again, you can't reveal that too early. If we know what the show's about at stage 1, then it's like, okay, gotta earn it. But yeah, and then Arthur dies, and Lilith dies, and fucking Yorick dies, and John dies. Everyone dies.
You know what happens in 52 that I was reading the transcripts, and it's something that gets completely glossed over. Arthur can see for a second.
Does he? When?
He, or maybe it's 51, but he sees the stars. They're fighting against Lilith when on the table with the hag in the nightmare. No, that's the beginning of 52, because it's in the nightmare sequence. And
is it?
And and she's cutting him open.
52 is big. Yeah, you're right. He can see for a second. Yes.
Yes, and they don't know whether that's Mother Darkness or like what's going on.
Pretty special. Pretty special. Maybe a little bit of John's power. We don't know yet.
We don't know. So I'm very interested to see where that goes in season 6. What else? Oh, this is kind of a more thought-provoking question rather than just an exclamation point. But when Arthur is digging through Antoine, Kane has a throwaway line about, oh, I didn't know the butcher was still around.
Yeah, that's good, eh?
Right? It was so good. But there is this through line of one of Arthur's foils is the butcher. And there's moments in season 5 where we get to see like a more violent, feral Arthur. And I was wondering, after the events of season 4, like, does the butcher live in Arthur's head as a, like, this is somebody I don't want to turn into? You know those people you have in your head who are like, I've seen you and I know it could be you and I don't want to. Is that something that Arthur has?
You've hit on a very interesting thought. Oh, yeah. I think that's absolutely one of the voices in his head that I think he sees a possible, and in fact, probably a voice that he hears often when he feels those brutal moments. I think that joke from Kane works on 2 lines, though. It's like a reference to Arthur, but also just the fact that he's butchering up the corpse. He's just like doing a terrible job. It's like a literal butcher. Yeah.
Kane is like your manager with a clipboard over you being like, oh, that's
that scene is also kind of meant to be a mirror of the scene when John is sewing up Arthur in the mines, right? Which is why he says, I'm gonna go get my Gardettos, because that's what he's eating when he's watching John in the mines. Like, it's not just a Gardetto joke, it's also a reference to the fact that he's already done this.
Oh man. So I think we're ready to get into Dapo.
Okay, so Parker, obviously, like this now, I'll tell you right up. I had always intended, literally probably one of the first notes when I started to like theorize bigger things, one of the first notes was what happened in the moments before. I think we always wanted to see that. I think it's just interesting.
Yes.
Because it answers a lot of questions. We have John specifically say, I heard your partner call to you before. That's how he figures out his name. He literally says, well, your name is Arthur Lester because it's on the door and I don't think your partner would have called out his own name. We have we have John saying, I think it's in episode 18, that he killed Parker.
Yep.
And that we also have a line from John saying, I made you read from the book. You were just the first person stupid enough to do it, when he talks about killing Emily. We also are revealed that, okay, when Arthur opened the book, the King in Yellow knew who he was the King in Yellow, entered his mind, and had some sort of control. Clearly, we now realize that this explains a lot of Emily as well. Because, like, if Emily opened that book and he said the same type of thing, read from the book, and she said no, and he's like, fine, deliver my book to whatever the fuck whatever it has to do, and she does it, and then he kills her. You know what I mean? Like, it makes a lot more sense. So a lot of that is revealed, but I had early days like show what happens the moments, and that's why we hear that radio turn on, is because I kind of intended, it was probably around the time of the remaster, so yeah, like season 2, I was like, oh, I want to see what happens right before this. But we hear Parker, which is really funny.
Parker.
Yeah.
Oh, the first 2 seconds, you just like straight out the gate hit us across the face with that, and then the hits don't stop coming.
Well, it's funny. I did Parker's voice about 4 times to like figure out what he sounded like, and when I landed, because at first I did him a lot heavier, like kind of like big, like, because that's kind of what I saw a lot of fan art, like Parker kind of being heavy, and I liked it. But the minute I did that, number one, the biggest issue was he sounded like Eddie, who comes in like moments later.
Yeah.
But also, I realized that's not really how I ever saw Parker. Like, I liked the fan art, but I never really saw him like that. What I saw him more was like a Bill Burr, like, what the fuck you doing? Like, come on, get off it. And that's kind of what I leaned into, because I was like a Bill Burr, like kind of razzing him, being like, what, this is your problem? Like, what are you doing here? So when I did that, mixed with like a little bit of Bruce Willis, I was like, oh, that's Parker. But I realized it also sounded a bit too much like Noel. So I pitched him up a little bit. So like So Parker is a combination of Bill Burr, Bruce Willis, and pitched up a little bit. So that's why you got this guy coming in like, what are you doing? Like, get out of here. You know, like a little raspier too, like he smokes.
The little moments we get of their life.
The slice of life stuff. You date my sister. You see my parents, put it on the piano. I had so much fun writing that stuff because to me, that's exactly the kind of stuff that to me adds flavor to the world, but also shows, who Arthur was. The idea that just by the tone that Parker sort of says, just store it on the piano. It's not the first time you stored stuff on the piano. Yep. You can hear that. And frankly, I'm really proud of the business in that scene, like the stuff that they're doing. Like I like Cases. Parker walks over, he makes a cup of tea. You can literally hear him like boiling the kettle and like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that stuff is really cool, and the case that they're kind of talking about, it adds a lot of life to it, and yeah, I'm really proud of it. And honestly, I'm really proud of the acting of Arthur in that scene for some reason. When
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Were you about to say when he's holding the book and Parker is talking to him?
Yeah. And it's like a dismissive line almost. He's like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I really like the way you can hear him staring at something else. And it's funny because when I recorded it, I didn't think much about it. And I was listening back and I was like, that sounds really well acted. Like I was just really impressed with that.
Yeah, no, that was literally, what I was about to say. It's so clear and their relationship is so clear.
Yes. Well, I love the line, and it's funny because when I first recorded the heavier Parker, I kind of did it like this. The line that Parker says after he sits down is he's like, can you gonna go get the mail? And Arthur's like, yeah, and he walks over and gets the mail. And then when I re-recorded it with my take on Parker, where I was like, oh, this is really Parker. He's like, go get the mail. Like you fucking idiot. What are you doing? like so much more
Big
aggressive. The way that, but the way that I envision Parker being, and frankly, from the stories that Arthur said, that's how I hear him too. I mean, like, yeah, you think bedrock? Bedrock's when you're at bottom, kid. Like, yeah, take another drink. Like, just relax. Like, oh, your kid's dead. Oh, you're like a very Bill Burr,
Yeah, taking him under his wing, but having that grit that makes it okay.
Well, and I think what makes it so tender. Yeah, and what makes it so cool is it recontextualizes Arthur. Arthur, especially at the beginning, is the soft one, and John is like the blah, 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 do this, and it totally makes sense when Arthur's like, yeah, of course I'll get the mail. Like he's really tender. And it's funny. I thought of recording Arthur the way he sounds in season 1, like where it's a lot more soft and blah blah blah. But I didn't like it. I don't care. The remaster can be damned. I'm happy with the way he sounds now, and a little bit more character to him. But I was really proud of that opening scene, and like I said, it plugs a lot of holes. We hear them talk. We understand. You
introduced the question to patrons. I don't remember where or when, of the question of, did John actually
kill Parker? Yeah.
And so that checks that off. Like, I love it.
Oh, me too. And like I said, Arthur reads from the book. And funnily enough, it's the same phrase that's read by John. So in the first episode, John says, put the book down or whatever, open it. And you hear John reading something. It's like, Lauren eats some show. It's the exact same 3 words that Arthur reads in Dapo, just recontextualized. So clearly John's remembering things, like kind of like elements, like, but he's come back and he's like, I'll read from this book and up, and the way that I view it is like that passage in the book would officially give the king control of Arthur's body, but obviously it backfires, as Kane says, in every world. But the big difference is, in this world, the manager steps in. I almost envision him turning on the radio, snapping his fingers, and letting the boys come back with a clean slate. Obviously, they remember things over time, because not only do they remember things from the Waylay, but also John slowly remembers that he did kill Parker and he killed Emily and all this kind of stuff. The same way that Arthur remembers where his fucking car is parked. Like, it's not meant to be a total memory wipe, to clarify, obviously, because if it was, then no one would remember anything. I think Arthur pretty much blocked out the death of Parker mainly from trauma more than anything else, I think. But yeah, so that recontextualizes so many scenes and answers a lot of questions, which I'm really pumped about.
Oh, so many questions.
And then we get the waylay.
And then we get the waylay.
We got Jerry the jokester James, who comes out. Did you end up hearing all of his jokes? I know they're muddled.
No, my ears don't work good, and I don't know how to isolate audio.
Right.
So
well, here's what he says. I'll read it out for you. It's for everyone. They don't have to worry about it. So he says, "Yeah, thank you. But seriously, I love it here. Free drinks, gambling, the music of Vic Donetta. Give it up for Vic. You know what they say? It doesn't become a hit until you hand it off to Vic. But I kid. The man's a treasure, a staple here at the Waylay, doing shows every night for, well, as long as the manager wants, eh? But seriously, though, Vic's songs are so soothing, I find myself perfectly at peace the moment he's on stage, because that means I get a break. Oh, come on. That was a soft one. See what we got here tonight. Then he does some crowd work. Literally, all he says is hey, I think I had to cut it for timing, but what he was originally said is, hey, listen, you're at the Waylay. We're on the same boat, slowly sinking life raft. But hey, at least we're together. What about you, ma'am? Where are you from? Oh, okay. Well, I can't all be lucky. You here with your husband? We won't tell. And then he talks to Arthur. What are you here for, buddy?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Tight
and then
five
Return of the Waiter
from Jerry.
Yeah, for real. And then we get a Return of the Waiter who reminds them. I didn't say it, but I envisioned the drink still in front of them too, which is really cool.
That's so cool.
To me, Vic just left stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why it's and then
I love envisioning that from the Waylay perspective of Arthur appears.
Yeah.
Whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
And then to the manager, big build up. No one's going to see it coming. I think you had a little bit of knowledge because I said there was another Kane, but I don't even think you called it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Which is really fun. And then we got white suited manager who's a more controlled version of Kane,
new favorite, honestly.
Well, and like I mentioned, one of the things I'm really proud about is that his laugh is the same, but he stifles it. So he goes, he tries not to do it, which I think is really funny.
It's so good.
Yeah. He's more, and this was intentional, but he's more even tempered. He speaks the way Kane did when we first met Kane, because Kane has continued to escalate, right? Whereas the manager has kind of tapered off. He's kind of I'm not getting more wild. And in that scene, we have grand revelations. We have revelation that the lighter is special, a mundane item that becomes unmundane.
Yes. We have, just the reveal of what the Waylay is, the last bastion from Kane.
Yes. My favorite line of the entire episode is, although we did have to move the craps table because people were complaining about the dice rolls. Which
the dice rolls were bothering the patrons.
Which, to be crystal clear, is not meant to be just a throwaway gag. That is meant to be a combination gag and canonical answer to why the dice rolls disappear. Because, number one, the dice rolls exist in the show. That's just factual. And B, the Waylay clearly has influence over the real world. We hear this is where poetry is read. This is where songs that Arthur and John recognize are done. This is where patrons hang out. There's a lot of spillover. So we get the meta universe type vibe from this place.
Well, yeah. Well, he addresses us at the end, which okay, we gotta get there. Yes, we have the reveal of what the Waylay is, which he's scooping up the souls he wants to protect, but also the ones to entertain him.
Yes.
Which I thought was so good in the through line of every Nyarlathotep has some of that. I love the through line of that characterization of Kane loves playing with mortals, and so does the manager. And do you want to talk about the line from Kane?
Which episode was it in?
52.
Yes. There's a line that Kane reveals that the manager is another version of himself without realizing it. Basically, he traps Lilith and he says, the minute I knew someone was fucking with me, I knew it had to be you, because the only other person
who loves playing with mortals more than myself is the fruit of my loins. But
exactly. But he
more than
accidentally is
myself.
revealing more than myself. The answer is no, it's himself that's fucking with him, which I think is so cool. But yeah, then we talk about the crab cakes, a nod to Crab-Malevolent, Crab-Malevolent, Crab Malevolent. It's funny. I wanted to walk the line because I didn't want it to be an Easter egg soaked scene, because I wanted to feel real. Like, to a degree, I wanted, like, I was thinking about throwing calamari on the menu and stuff, but I was like, no, that's like too meta. Like, I really wanted to walk that line between this being a real place that matters and feels intentional, and kind of a nod to other things. And more than anything, I wanted it to be an explanation to why John first recognizes that song when they walk into, whichever place he first recognizes it from.
The booksellers.
The bookstore, yeah. J.D. Ackerman's. Why Emily is dead. Why
John knows Invictus.
Why John knows Invictus. Why all that stuff. And it's funny. It was really just time working against me, because I had a version where there was poetry being read on stage, and they were like, literally doing it. And I thought that was so cool. As just an answer to all of these questions that have been unanswered for so long.
Yes. Why John? Why places in New York feel familiar to John?
Yeah.
Like, so many questions are answered. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Because it's a simple explanation.
Yes.
And the simplest ones are the best ones.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh.
Yeah. The minute I finished the episode, it was like, and it's so funny because Joe and I'd finished it before 260 premiered, and we were so amped up watching the live listen, but because we both kind of forgot that it was 260, because I'd done 260 like a week earlier. I'd finished 260 way earlier, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait for them to like hear Parker. And then she was like, oh wait, no, that's not Parker, is it? And we were like, oh right, oh, the wager will be cool too. but we were like, people are gonna go ape shit.
Oh my god, no, this is like, that's why I said 260 is a 10 out of 10. But this is a 7 million out of 10.
Well, and a fun fact too, I didn't do it, but I was going to. I emulated the Parker death sound from the spooky stream. I mimicked the same death sound for Parker in this. I should have used the exact file, but it's pretty much the same.
Oh my god, that's so
because he goes, so I do like the same thing. I was like, how fucking funny would that be?
That's so great. See, those are the kind of Easter eggs where like you either know the audio so well or you listen to this. No, I think it doesn't feel Easter eggy at all, because truly the dice rolls are canon. The all of the memory questions have been canonical and hanging over us this whole time, right? Like,
it felt really cathartic to get them all out.
Yes, absolutely. Why does Yorick say he knew John? Like, answered,
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Why did John say that the doors leading to Castle Carringford looked familiar? That's one that's been hanging over my head.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of little things like that can all be kind of drawn back to the connecting tissue of what is this
manager.
Place, and knowing that a full conversation happened that we're never going to get to hear because it wouldn't be interesting, between a newly minted Arthur and a freshly, murderous King in Yellow. What that conversation must have been, you know what I mean? How long it must have been.
References the roles that they play, and Alia also says that both of these souls have roles to play.
Yes,
I assume that's a spoiler for season 6, and I shouldn't even ask about it.
I mean, not a spoiler, but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Fair enough. The lighter, let's talk a little bit more about the lighter. I love when he said that it keeps your purpose safe. What would you say John and Arthur's purpose is for season 6?
I mean, yeah, listen, their purpose is to save humanity, to save to save reality more than anything. You know, this story, listen, let's not pull punches here. No one's stupid. The story's not going to end with, you know, reality ending and everyone dying and, you know, all of this being for nothing. That would be a bad story.
This isn't a Lovecraft story.
It's not a Lovecraftian, like, traditional story. And moreover, I would feel really disappointed. Could these characters die? Of course. Are they? Probably. But the idea that they're going to fail in stopping this would be really disappointing. No one watches a Marvel movie thinking that even if the Guardians of the Galaxy die, that their job is going to fail. You know what I mean? So yeah, their purpose is to save humanity, save reality, save the cheerleader, save the world.
Save the world. The manager says we all hoped it wouldn't come to this. Is he talking about the Waylay, or is he talking about some, like, the patrons of the Waylay, or is he talking about somebody else?
Who knows? That's a tough one. That's a tricky one.
I
mean, that could be fairly interpreted, however, frankly.
However, okay.
I don't think there's. I don't have. Put it this way. I didn't write it specifically trying to hint at more. Put it that way. Okay. That's an easy way to say it.
I like that answer. Okay. Let's talk about the manager talking to us specifically, because
now it's interesting that you take it that way, though, because I wrote the ending intentionally vague. And I'm glad you took it that way.
I did think that, like, there's a percentage of a chance that he was talking to somebody else who came into the room.
Who knows?
Possibly. Who knows? Who knows?
So, but listen, I'll say this much on air. You took it exactly how I hoped you would.
Okay. Yes. I think definitely both interpretations are super valid because you wrote it in such a way that it could be taken both ways for sure. I was like, okay, well, they had a part of Lilith inside of them, so could be her. Who knows?
But I love that was your initial reaction, because that was my hope. My hope was to have a line spoken to no one that could be seen as speaking to the patrons, because we know in some capacity the idea of the patrons are present. I will say this, though, just to squash any spinning. Beyond Dapo, the patrons aren't really going to be ever included in a major way. Like, we can call this kind of not the nail in the coffin, but like kind of the amount of curtain that I wanted to show. This is not going to end with John and Arthur standing on the precipice, turning and going, "You out there in the audience, you must help us. Dial 55." You know what I mean? Like, it's never going to be that kind of show. This was just enough to show that in the dimensions, in the reasons that the characters have listened to the show, in the way that we have heard the dice rolls through the show and stuff like that, that there is a reason and a logic. I mean, obviously the dice rolls is a bit of like kind of a joke, but an answer. I think anyone knowing this would agree that I didn't add the dice rolls to hint at the Waylay. That clearly was an afterthought. However, in terms of why John recognizes music, absolutely. So it was kind of a thing, you know what I mean? It was like two parts of the whole. So all the questions that are answered there are canonical, but none of them are absolute.
Now I'm thinking it has to be Lilith, right? So I had a question that I wasn't even going to answer or ask because I knew that it's just like a wait and see thing. But like, Lilith is so adamant that she's not Cain's daughter, that she's a daughter of Nathot. Is she like aligned with the manager? Anyway.
Who knows? Well, listen. The ending, as you said, or as we said, I suppose, can be read with two interpretations, as you pointed out. It can be directly addressed to you, which is sort of like a good luck, go do it,
don't fuck it up,
have fun. But if it's read under a different guise, then it can be interpreted in a very different way.
Into he says, what is he says?
Because you're sewn into him in a way that I didn't think was possible.
Good luck and don't fuck it up this time.
Could refer to anyone.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
here's what I would love. Here's what I would love. When this does premiere, I would love a poll to figure out which people think it is. If it's Lilith or if it's them. Because I would love to know what the common consensus is. Because I'm just curious.
I bet it'll change in the first like 24 hours.
Yes. First people will be like, it's totally this. And then they'll be like,
wait, no, it's this. Yeah, like what I just did right now.
That's only because I said something. It's only because I said, oh, it's interesting you take it that way.
Somebody's going to say it for sure.
Who knows? Impossible to know. I don't even know. Could be. I was trying to think of stupid. It could be Lily, the Bluopoth.
The traitor.
She just wandered into the room after. And the door just creaks open.
You're sewn into them in a way.
That'd be perfect.
Lily, you fucked it up this time, but don't fuck it up this time.
It's all on her. She's the 11th hour. They're standing on the precipice. Kane's standing there ready to destroy reality, and the Bluopoth just like mumbles out of the wreckage of a city.
It's season 7 of Buffy, except for instead of Spike, with like as everything's glowing, it's just Lily.
I love it.
Oh man,
perfection.
There's about 7 gazillion other things we could say, but I'd like to ask some general season 5 questions to round.
Let's do it.
Some more meta-y questions.
Happy.
Sound editing. Okay, you've mentioned a bunch of sounds that you've come back to. The Parker death sound is fantastic. But were there other sounds that you came back to in this season, or that you used a bunch that you were proud of, and that people might not have heard or picked up on?
There's a few stock sound effects that I used a lot. The new one this season was that boom. It was like kind of a musical note. It started up in the witch episode, I think. There was a sound effect touching Lilith, which was really cool. I don't remember when it got used, but I have it called touching Lilith. Oh, it was when they touched that piece of her. It's funny because I can just literally go through the sound effects I made for this season, because I call them Malevolent - whatever. Like I have Witch's bedroom door, Waylay ambience, Vanguard wisps, Vanguard talking. Oh, it was annoying, but I'm really proud of Yorick's clacking jaw. Awesome. I would say people loved it. Me too, but it was really annoying to do. It was really difficult because it was just a lot of tedious editing, because every line had to have like, and you can't just drag and drop clicks onto the track because it sounds weird. You have to line up the snaps with when he was talking, and it took so long. Beyond that, the head exploding, that was fun, but that was season 4, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this season was really about music in terms of things I was most proud of. I composed, I think, I don't even know how many new themes, but a ton of them this season. I think Lost was this season at the beginning. Yeah, because Faro's Goodbye, I composed for Intermezzo. So this season alone, I composed, and composed sounds so stupid, but I wrote a little song called Variants on a Witch. I wrote The Maze. I wrote Malum. I wrote How Far We've Come. I wrote Friar's Lantern. I wrote the Castle Carringford themes, The Journey Home, Evening with Scratch, The Wager, A Departure. So yeah, it's like 9 or 10 themes this season alone, which I'm really proud of. Way more than last season.
That's incredible. You just released some tracks on Spotify.
Yeah. There's like 12 on there now. It's almost enough for a full album.
Amazing. Hope horror. You have done so well with the hope part of that. But this is also a podcast defined by its horror, and you
Mm.
soundscape it so well. What horror were you most proud of in season 5? A question I wrote before hearing part 52.
Yeah, what horror? I mean, just chronologically, the womb cave I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get creeped out by the idea of little maggots falling on you, crawling through your skin.
Having to cut through it and crawl through it. And,
the prints as well, like biting and like, you know, being undead is gross. Being sewn up and having those bugs shoved inside you, disgusting, gross. Beyond that, I would say the next kind of moment, it's not like overt horror, but I really love the idea of the gibbet swinging in the fog is really terrifying to me. The dark young beneath Castle Carringford, I think, is really cool.
Yes.
Which is also a big callback. That reveal was a huge moment for me. I've been waiting for that forever. And yeah, beyond that, I would say this season had more horror than season 4, but it was still pretty light. Then again, I guess every season's pretty light. I don't really know which is the horror season. Maybe season 6 will be.
I think they all have different flavors of horror.
Yeah.
Right? Like season 3 was a lot of psychological and that like small town, isolated town horror.
Yes, that's true. The vibe of season 3 was very horror. A lot of the vibe of season 5 had some horrific elements.
It definitely had. It was fantasy horror, right? Where it's less about the constant buildup and more about the you stumble through the fog and there's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yes, that's right. And a bit of gothic with like the castle murder mystery, which I did like.
And I don't find gore horrifying, but I know some people do. Barnabas sticking the knife through the head of the friar.
Oh, that was fun. And I could hear the dribble down the forehead of like, yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Okay. Season 6. You posted a thing for the patrons with Dapo. You said in season 6, in a lot of ways, will achieve what I wanted to with season 5. And then in some respects, you think you failed a little bit at achieving that in season 5.
And funnily enough, we touched on it a lot here. So I mentioned why 45 and 46 felt a little bit like they belonged in season 2. And what I wanted to do in season 5 was harken back to season 2. But I think what I failed to sort of account for was that I really wanted to build up the personal relationships of Arthur and John before it all kind of ended. And Yorick, obviously being a comedic relief, was like great, but none of that really harkened back to season 2 vibes where it was just John and Arthur sort of alone against the world. That's what I'm specifically referring to in the dark world.
That totally makes sense.
I mean, now Dapo's out, so we know obviously they're going to the dark world together. I think that's pretty clear. And there's no way out. And we don't know what they're going to do there, and they don't know what they're going to do there. And we know that the dark world is this oppressive, like almost evil force, so like this energy that like makes you darker and makes you really evil or whatever the fuck. So like the idea that they're going to be there, you know, it really is going to be more like season 2 than I think I realized. And I think the biggest disservice I did to myself was saying that about season 5 when I really should just wait this season, because the world is once again alien. Like the dark world is entirely alien. And to a degree, what's really cool about it is like entirely my own. I don't have to worry about it being anyone else's version. Dark world is 100% a Harlan original. So
yours. Yes. It'll be such an interesting parallel with season 2, because we talked earlier about the shame John has always felt. And he was carrying that so deeply in season 2. And he didn't know how to deal with those emotions. Exactly. He didn't have the tools. And now he does a lot more.
Well, it's going to be directionless survivalism to a degree. Yes. Like it's like they're not, they don't have a goal anymore. There's no go get the Blackstone. They're like, okay, we got to and that's how it was in season 2. Because season 2, they didn't know how they were going to get out. They were just like, let's just start walking and hopefully something pops up, you know?
Yep. Yes, 100%. And hopefully they'll be able to rely on each other. Have better communication than they did.
Oh, they will. I'm sure. I think
yeah,
we're at
sure,
the end of that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the divorce
yes.
arcs are over. I'm bored of them.
No. They're in such a different place, which is why it will be such an interesting parallel to season 2.
And like I said, they have a common problem to deal with, like survival. You know, it's like
yes.
There's no debate. Who do we give it to? It's like, okay, what the fuck? How do we get out of here? Can we even get out of here?
Can they? They don't have a body to go back to.
Nope. It is end times.
Oh, man. One of your cardinal rules of writing is wow them in the end.
Yeah.
What do we have to look forward to in season 6?
I think season 6 is going to surprise a bunch of people in a bunch of different ways. And I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to close out some final questions. I think we're going to confront some alien truths. And I think it's going to be heartbreaking.
Excellent. I'm going to end on the same question I ended the season 4 Q&A on.
Ooh.
What's the biggest question Arthur faces next season? What's the biggest question that John faces next season?
It's the same for both of them. Can you let go?
Yeah, because the manager says they have the means and the ability. They just have to let go.
Yep.
What does it mean?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Season 6 finale. Actually, you know what?
In the series finale.
In the series finale.
It'll be incredible. All right. Well, that's it for us.
Thank you so much, Ren. This has been an absolute blast.
Thank you, Harlan.
You've done such an amazing job.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for creating this wonderful show and this wonderful universe. And thank you for Invictus.
I do my best.
It's brought such an amazing community together, and we can't wait to see how Malevolent ends.
Oh, me neither.
All right. If you're not already a patron, chapters come out every week. And so for patrons, there was only a 1-week gap between 260 and Dapo. Hardly any waiting at all. And so now is the time, if you haven't joined already, to join the Patreon. It is.
Don't want to miss a thing.
Don't want to close my eyes.
Don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, Arthur. But yes, you don't want to miss a thing. Check it out. Patreon.com/something the Invictus stream.
Something.
I did a bad job.
You can find it. You can Google it.
Yeah, Google it.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Harlan. And
thank you.
I'll see you around the table.
See you around the table.
Hey, you know what would make your customer service help desk way better? Dumping it and then switching to Intercom. But you're not quite ready to make that change. We get it. That's why Finn, the world's leading AI customer service agent, is now available on every help desk. Finn can instantly resolve up to 80% of your tickets, which makes your customers happier and gets you off the customer service rep hiring treadmill. Finn by Intercom, the leading customer service AI agent, now available on every help desk.
Support for this podcast and the following message is brought to you by E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. With E-Trade, you can dive into the market with easy-to-use tools, $0 commissions, and a wide range of investments. And now there's even more to love. Get access to industry-leading research and insights from Morgan Stanley to help guide your decisions. Open an account and get up to $1,000 or more with a qualifying deposit. Get started today at etrade.com. Terms and other fees apply. Investing involves risks. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney LLC member SIPC. E-Trade is a business of Morgan Stanley.
Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences, like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code LISTEN50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50, code LISTEN50.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This is Paige DeSorbo, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I have exciting news. McDonald's has all new McCrispy strips. It's chicken made for dipping. Tender, juicy white meat chicken with a golden brown, peppery breading. It's chicken so good it deserves its own sauce. The creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, a sauce that's creamy, savory, and sweet with a little heat. But it works with any of our sauces. I'm personally a barbecue sauce girl. Even sometimes I like ketchup. I'm just like basic sometimes. But I also need it in addition to any new sauces I'm trying. With a new creamy chili McCrispy strip dip, it's chicken made for dipping, only at McDonald's.